This week on The Traitors.
If it's not, get rid of me next. You're a traitor.
Look at who's scared.
I'm not scared at all, buddy.
I will bury you under the sand.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we gotta talk about this new episode of The Traitors because it was a great episode. So this is season 3, episode 4. Let's get right into this. Okay, so this episode begins where we left off last week. Last week they released the first 3, and episode 3 had ended with the Traitors, which, just as a reminder, are Bob the Drag Queen, Carolyn, Boston Rob, and Danielle. They were told that the killing of that night they were gonna have to choose 3 people, and they were going to be put in caskets, and then whichever casket gets a nail in the coffin literally is the person that's killed. But they had to come up with who they were going to put on that list and actually physically write it down in plain sight. So they ended up doing it behind this pretty cool bookshelf that opens up, and then there's like a little secret space there. And where we had left off last week was when all 4 traitors were in there and they were being a little bit too loud, and Gabby happens to go past it and she can hear something. So this week we were going to see if she saw anything. She didn't actually see anything, but she did hear Danielle's voice. So that's the voice that really stood out to her. But after that, I guess they left the little place open, so there's other people going into the bookshelf. Dylan goes, and so does Danielle, and Dylan is low-key like he has like a feeling that something happened in there. Obviously he doesn't know exactly what, but he does feel that like whatever happened already happened. So after that, because the traitors already fulfilled their task of writing those 3 names down, they now all have to go outside of the castle because it's time for those people to actually be put in the coffins. So everybody goes outside, and the 3 players that they ended up choosing were Jeremy, Nikki, and Ciara. I'm not surprised that they chose Jeremy. I know that Danielle had it out for him because Jeremy low-key knew that Danielle was one of the traitors. Nikki and Ciara did surprise me because up to this point they hadn't really done much, and they also needed to come up with the idea of should they put a traitor in there. But what their plan sort of is that of those 3, obviously one of them is going to be killed tonight, but they're hoping that the other 2 people that end up surviving will become suspicious to everybody else. So that's their trick. So they're kind of seeing it as a like, we're killing 1, but we're actually killing 3 at the same time. So poor Jeremy, Nikki, and Ciara go into those wood coffins, which I gotta be honest with you, I know this is a game, I know this is a show. Going in a coffin is terrifying, especially at night. Oh, that's so scary. So props to them for going. But before the coffins close, each of the 3 have an opportunity to beg. So Jeremy actually says that he is willing to work with the traitors. Nikki says that, she is a really good athletic person, so she could definitely help them win more mission money. And then Ciara doesn't really plead. She kind of says, if I find you, it's effing over, F y'all. Something to that effect. So they didn't show who was killed yet. We end up going to breakfast, and everyone's talking about what they think. Robyn is so wrong. It's so funny. She thinks that there are actually 2 traitors in the coffins. And then Gabby goes ahead and tells them about hearing Danielle last night behind that bookcase. So what other people were kind of adding to that conversation is that there definitely have had to been the traitors needed to have congregated last night. So maybe it was behind that bookshelf. That's something they're thinking of. Robyn actually brings up the bookcase in front of everyone and asks who went in it, but because it ended up being open for the later part of the night and a lot of people actually ended up going, it's kind of like too messy now to exactly know who. And because even Bob was like, yeah, Bob the drag queen was like, yeah, it was open and like I went or like I didn't go, something to that effect. And Gabby is so gullible. She's just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I was wrong. Like, no, you heard them, but you're so gullible. So everybody is arriving as they usually do, trying to see who ended up surviving, who didn't. And the last ones to arrive are Nikki and Ciara, meaning Jeremy died. I'm surprised. I actually thought they were going to kill Ciara only because I feel like that probably could have put even more suspicion on Jeremy. But yeah, that's who they ended up killing, Jeremy. So then Alan goes to tell them about the mission and he gives them a little quote of it, put your head in the game. But before going on the mission, obviously they have some time to kind of all chit chat a little bit of about what their thought processes are. So Tom Sandoval and Robyn think that Ciara is a traitor. Wes thinks that it's Nikki because Nikki was not extra enough. Huh? Listen, I know Wes is like, he came a little bit later, but he's so off his game right now. Dylan is still adamant that it is Bob the drag queen, and guess who's actually starting to believe that too? Dolores. She starts to think that because she says that every time she looks at Bob the drag queen, she sees that Bob is deadly afraid of being, you know, called out, of being blamed for being a traitor, of being caught. So it is time for the mission. There are $35,000 available to earn in this mission. So essentially what the mission was is that there are these big statues like made out of stone, and the body, the part of the statue, the body and the head have been like, are dislocated. So what they're going to have to do is carry, so again, two pieces, carry first, or it doesn't matter in what order, but you have to carry you have to end up carrying the body and the head up the hill, and then once you're up the hill and you've got both parts, then you assemble the head on top of the body so it can be a complete statue. And if you end up doing that within the time, not only is each completed statue extra money, each statue has a name. So if you are able to put your statue up, you get a shield and you won't be able to be killed tonight. So they begin this challenge. Now, I thought it was just going to be like a little hill. No, the way these people were running, it looked like it was pretty far. The statues, they weren't literally made out of stone, so they were not like that heavy, but I still think they were pretty heavy because a lot of them were struggling. A lot of them needed like another person to help them. I thought it was really nice that Derek is helping people with their statues. Bob H, he was down bad. I felt a little bad for him. He was crying. He was talking about heart attack that he had a while ago and how this is making him realize that he can't do things like he used to. But you know, they gotta do what they gotta do. So the first to build his statue is Tom. Anyway, they end up all of the statues ended up actually being built because there was only 9 that could be built. They earned $20,000 extra dollars, and then Tom, Dolores, Chrishell, Bob the drag queen, Dylan, Bob H, Danielle, Ciara, and a few other ones got a shield. Others didn't. For example, Robyn. So Alan is telling people that he's kind of just reiterating who got a shield, who didn't, and if you didn't get a shield, you are up for killing tonight. But here's the part where things get messy. So now, mind you, they're done with the mission. Everybody knows who's got a shield, who doesn't. It's time to go back. But then Bob the drag queen decides to throw Boston Rob under the bus by saying that he still thinks that one of the new guys could be a traitor. And that little comment that he made definitely changed the trajectory of the round table. So Rob didn't like this. He didn't like being slighted by Bob at all. And he has decided that because Bob the drag queen just threw him under like that, he will now do everything in his power to go against him, and he is going to shoot his big shot against Bob the drag queen tonight. So he's going around the whole castle recruiting people, and he's playing a numbers game because there is strength in numbers. So he's going with as many people as he can, in like going to one and convincing them. So then two will go and convince a third, and the three will convince a fourth, and kind of like that. Which Dylan already thinks that, Dolores already thinks that, so it's really not that hard. But Rob ends up going with his fellow traitors, Danielle and Carolyn, and he's saying tonight's Bob's night. And Danielle was like, no, like, we got Nikki tonight. Like, we are pretty sure that Nikki is the one that's going to be voted out. There's already so much suspicion around her. We don't really have to do much. But then when Danielle leaves, Rob ends up just talking to Carolyn, and he says to Carolyn, we gotta do it. And Carolyn says, like, already? Like, tonight? He's like, yes. So it is then time for the round table. Wes is the one that actually begins, and he goes straight to Nikki. He says that, listen, Wes is so lost again. But yeah, he goes for Nikki. He says that he thinks that it's her because she's a showgirl and that she didn't do a show. Kind of just dumb reasons. And then she says that maybe it's him because why would he know? When it comes to the traitors, any little thing these people could use against you, like, oh, you skipped breakfast. Why? Maybe it's because you're a traitor and you're not hungry. Like, it's just a lot. Gabby and Chrishell, they do vouch for Nikki. They have sort of like a little squad of the three of them. Robyn says that she really needs a lot of evidence tonight because the past two roundtables she's been so wrong, so she doesn't feel comfortable, just accusing anyone. I'm glad she finally realized that. Derek goes for Ciara, and he says that last night when the three victims were on the caskets and they had to plead for their life, Ciara was the only one who didn't plead, and not only that, her use of profanity makes her look extremely guilty. Then Ciara, she starts talking about she's a nurse and she's got to tell patients the truth so she never lies. What does that got to do with anything? But yeah, she was really nervous. She was fighting for her life. But as Ciara is, saying this, going at it with Derek, trying to prove her innocence, Boston Rob says, you guys, stop. This is a distraction. There's been one person here that everybody loves, that he's been trying to go around everyone, trying to gain their love. But every time that he's met with a decision, he goes to deflection. He's just going off. And then he says, and it is Bob, the drag queen. So everyone's in shock, but then Dylan goes in and he says why he thinks that Bob is the drag queen. But then Bob starts to plead for himself, and he says, I've got 9 words. I swear to God that I'm not faithful. That's where I was just like, oh, okay, you don't play with God like that. Like, you've already lost me a long time ago, but now even more. So yeah, he swears he's a faithful, but then Rob says, well, I've got 2 words for you. You're not. Bob says, well, you're scared of me. You'll never be like me. And then Dylan says, listen, I think you're an incredible actor. I grew up with a brother that's an actor. And then Bob says, not a good one. And I love Dolores. She's like, oh, that's not nice. That's not nice to say. And then without further ado, it is time to vote. So Dolores ends up going first, and she votes for Bob because of his reaction to things. Then Danielle. This was a big one. Like, I was like, wondering, like, what is she gonna do? She votes for her fellow traitor, Bob. There were a few other people that voted for, so the other two, so for example, Ciara, Gabby, Derek, Robyn, and Nikki voted for Ciara. They thought she was a traitor. Wes and Tom Sandoval were the only 2 that voted for Nikki. And then Bob the drag queen votes for Boston Rob. But then Chrishell, Britney, Ciara, Dylan, Carolyn, Sam, Ivar, Boston Rob, and Bob H all vote for Bob the drag queen. And their explanations are on point. I mean, Ciara said, because the way you dictate everything, it shows us that you are a traitor. So he's got the overall amount of votes. Bob the drag queen is out. before he leaves the castle, he's got to do his little dramatic thing and says, "I never tell a lie. I told you, I swear to God." And then everyone's like, "What?" And then he says, "But I don't even believe in God." And then he leaves. So Bob the drag queen, who was a traitor, is out of the game.
Thank God.
I'm actually happy about this, and I'm going to tell y'all why. Because this guy came in here, guns blazing, coming for my housewives, left and right. Dorinda, Ayan, No. I'm never going to forgive him for that. So I'm glad for that. And you guys, I don't even want to go too off the rails, but like on Instagram, on Twitter or something, he was talking about, oh, he's never even seen an episode of The Real Housewives. Listen, if y'all look at the promotions for this season of The Traitors, almost all of the promotion involves the housewives. So clearly, I think the housewives one up any other show that is on here. So because I stand with my housewives, I'm glad Bob is out. But he really wasn't that good of a traitor. He had a good element in the sense that everyone loved him, so I do think that worked in his favor for a bit. But I do think that the other things outweighed that, and it was just a little bit too suspicious. And I do think that being so bossy in the missions definitely gave that didn't help him. But now, you guys, what I'm looking forward to is how will the Traitors move forward, because I do feel like this is going to break the foundation of the little alliance that they have, because Danielle and Carolyn, they feel slighted by Boston Rob. But nevertheless, you guys, amazing episode. I cannot wait for next week. Let me know what your thoughts were about this episode, about Bob being banished, and what are your thoughts about it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one.